Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Sunday chat today is going to be a chat about yesterday's visit. That won't be too long, and our strange journey home. And then we will have a look at the plants I bought. So it'll be it's not an unboxing, it's an unwrapping. And some of the plants aren't wrapped anyway. Sarah knows me too well. You start a box basically so that you can, as you find something you like, you can go put it in your box. It's got your name on it and everything, ready to pay, at the end before you go. And I got there to pay sort of thing. And Sarah was pulling the labels out, shouting the prices, and the other lady there was sort of putting the prices into the till to get a total. And Sarah looked at me and she says, "I suppose you want me to wrap these so that you can unwrap them." Knows me too well. So we can't have an unwrapping video if they're not wrapped, can I? So she wrapped 2 of them. We agreed to split the difference. We got 4 plants to look at, including a new genus, which is, it was a good deal. Basically, there was somebody selling a lot of these plants, and basically they offered them because they knew Sarah was having the 75th anniversary sort of orchid festival at the nursery. They knew that was coming up, so they said, "I've got a load of these that I want to sell, would you be interested?" So Sarah bought them all. Because when I saw them, I thought, "Oh, Christ, I want some of them." I immediately assumed, because they're not the type of plant that Sarah sells, she doesn't do these orchids. So I immediately thought that they were a private seller. One of the Orchid Society members has bought in a load and Sarah had cleared some space for them. And that would have meant I'd have had to pay cash and I wouldn't have been able to get them. Carry that amount of cash around, they were a bit expensive. Hint, hint. But no, Sarah bought them as a job lot and then offered them for sale at the festival, knowing that they would just go, and they did. And when I went round to put them in my box, basically, because I'd already started a box by then, I looked at some of the other people's boxes, and they were nearly all this type of orchid. And obviously one person who got there first, early, grabbed 1 each of the 2 that I would definitely have had both of them had they still been there. But there weren't any others, unless people had bought them and actually taken them out of the nursery and not put them in a box. Then those were the only 2, and those were the 2 I'd have chosen. Somebody's already bought them. Cheers, Ron. Never mind, I still got some nice ones. I hope you like them. They're not easy to grow. They're going to be a challenge, but they stand a much better chance of working here than they would have done at the other place, let's put it that way. And have you guessed what it is yet? You have to sort of immediately think things. If I let you into a little hint, I have had some before. So that's got you guessing now, hasn't it? The longer term, viewers sort of thing that have been around the channel a while. Oh, I wonder if he's got some more of those. But you have to start thinking, you need to be clever if you're going to guess, is because, don't forget, I don't do warmer growers anymore, because they're not very successful here. Yeah? That excludes, you think, oh, I wonder if he's got some Tolumnias. They don't do well here, they like warmth. They come from the Caribbean. So it's not going to be Tolumnias, is it? You can cross them out. Yeah, so anyway, we will see them in a minute and all will be revealed, and I'm going to leave them till last as well. We'll look at the other 2 first. So the trip. We all started out okay. The little garage near me on the way to go anywhere has reopened again because they knocked it down and built it up again. So that was open, so I got topped the car up, so we now got a full tank and don't have to worry about fuel for the day. Because when you're in a strange area, you never quite know where the next garage is going to be, and you don't want to use motorway services and the like because they're always ridiculously priced. So anyway, we arranged to meet Lynn at 8 o'clock, and there's this little place just on the outskirts of town, just off the main road, that's like a little side street that leads to a housing estate. And this little side street is free parking, there's no yellow lines. And you know, at the weekend there's a business there, but at the weekend that's closed. So there's always plenty of spaces anyway. We got there at 2 minutes to 8 to meet Lynn for 8 o'clock, and she wasn't there. And I said, oh, that's strange, Lynn's normally early. And she arrived at 1 minute past. So we both got there within 3 minutes of each other, sorted out seats and everything, and away we went. And trouble-free journey to our breakfast stop, which is about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. Time-wise, it's not halfway, but miles doesn't really reflect it, because the first part of the journey to there is all on silly little A road, so you're stuck behind the slowest car always. But the rest of the journey from where we have our breakfast is just sort of down onto the edge of the town, down the slip road onto a dual carriageway, and then onto the motorway. So it's fast right up to Burnhams, apart from the last couple of miles, just to get into where they are. So the last part of the journey absolutely flew by. And it was raining. When we got there it was raining, so so we had to make a dash for the nursery, because I don't like getting wet. And it rained hard enough during the day that at one point we were sitting down having a bit of lunch with Lynn and a couple of other people I know, Alan and Sue, and my chair was actually in a stream. I had water running underneath my chair. To go careful where you put your feet. And what it is the nursery, the greenhouses are 200 feet long, and obviously they've got sloping roofs with internal guttering, well not internal, but guttering that runs down the whole length. So obviously it's downhill, they're built on a slope. So all the rain, collects in the guttering and heads towards an outlet point at the far end. And Arthur said, it's on my list of things to do, it's at the bottom of the list and it never makes the top. So the gutters are getting a bit jammed up a bit, so they overflow into the nursery. And at one point they'd managed to get quite a bit of water onto the concrete floor of the sales area, turned it into a skating rink apparently. I didn't notice it, but yeah, there was water coming in lots of places. I got dripped on several times and managed to not get the camera wet. We had a look round the Orchid Paradise. I've got clips. There's the Orchid Paradise stuff, which is their sort of specimen plants and display plants and the pond and the little waterfall and stuff. So I've filmed some of that, and I filmed some of the plants in the nursery, and I filmed the sales area, which is it's often fast in, fast out plants, like the Phalaenopsis. They're bought in to sell. Burnhams don't grow Phalaenopsis. They buy them and sell them, if you see what I mean. So it's a different feel. Just mass of colour, basically. And then there was the Orchid Society displays. There were 4 Orchid Societies, all had their individual displays. So I'll probably put that into 3 videos. 3 separate runs, and I thought, as a treat for you good people, when I do the orchid displays, they're going to be like I normally do. They will be music. The simple reason is I don't know what the plants are, and often the tags are difficult to find with the camera, so I don't know what the plants are. So the easiest thing to do is to just do a little introduction and put them to music. I know some people don't like that, they like to know what they're looking at. Well, if I don't know, I can't tell you, can I? But when we look around the nursery, in the main I will know what we're looking at, so I think I'll add a narration to those, so that I can sort of talk along with the video sort of thing. Which will make a change. It's a bit of a faff for me, but I can't see me going to Burnhams again this year, and yet unless I do one of those spur of the moment jobbies, which I have been known to do. It just gets, some days it's like a weekday and I think I've got no watering to do. I've got nothing to do today. I'm going to go to Burnhams. I just go and get in the car and go, literally. I've done that before. Anyway, so we got there, we met up with lots of people, had a chat with people I hadn't seen for a while, and you know, yeah, nice time. We had some nice lunch. I had a huge piece of cake. I had a joke with the people behind the cafe thing. The person in front of us, never mind the queue, person in front of us, oh, I want a latte, but can you, there's a big coffee machine, yeah, it's a machine with the buttons of the types of coffee, it's there, takes pride of place. Can I have a latte, but can you put the milk in a separate jug, please? Well, what button would that be on the machine then, dopey? And I'd like this, that and the other, but can you do that separately? And this woman went on, she didn't buy anything like off the shelf. Everything had to be fiddled with and, you know, changed. So the, you know, the woman's frantically scribbling it all down, you know, because nothing was like standard. You know, beans on toast, but I don't want the butter on the toast, I want it separate, sort of thing. So when she'd finally cleared the flipping queue, everybody behind's like tutting, including me. Basically I got there and I said, I'd like this canned drink, but Hannah's not too keen on the colour of the can, so if you could change the colour of the can for us, and then I'd like a piece of the carrot cake, but I want 2 of the walnuts taken off, and I'd like you to pick out half of the bits of carrots and only leave half because I don't like too many, and the icing looks a bit thick, so if you could scrape something. And I got so far like that, and she started writing it down, and then she suddenly twigged I was arsing around basically, and the waitress person behind her was absolutely pissing herself laughing, shoulders were going and everything. So obviously that person had wound everybody up, including the queue, and those sort of people don't know they're doing it. They think this is all okay. They don't stop and think about anybody else. But it gave us a laugh anyway. We had a laugh out of it. We weren't exactly in a hurry either. And then we went and sat down and watched the water flowing under my chair, which was quite amusing. Anyway, so we eventually got to the end of the day, paid for my box, got a couple of things wrapped up, took it round to the car, lost Lynn, so I sent her a text saying, we're at the car, where are you? And she got stuck chatting, as I've got stuck chatting an awful lot during the day. In fact, we'd have left probably 15 minutes earlier, but I got collared right at the last minute. I went to get my box to go and pay, and like, oh, Roger. Oh, hell. So anyway, we eventually got in the car, and it's still raining. It had been raining nearly all day, and the weather was not nice. Of course, by now the roads are very wet. So we set off, everything seemed okay. We got on the dual carriageway, and the windscreen started to mist up at the bottom, inside, yeah? And I've got a button. You ought to call it the panic button really, but it's the fast demist button. It's got a little picture of a windscreen on it. You press that and there's about a 2-second delay followed by a hurricane up the windscreen. It clears it in like 2 seconds, literally. It's crystal clear, it's instant, but it is loud. There's a huge fan comes on, clears the windscreen. And we're, for ages on the way home, I kept having to do this every sort of 3 or 4 minutes. It just kept missing up. I said, I know what it is. The air is really moist. Yeah, you know, it's just, and the difference in the temperature between the windscreen and what's inside the car, it's just it's condensation. And in the end, I started playing with the buttons because I've never had this problem before. So there's quite a few buttons on the car. I'm not quite sure what they do because they've just been left where they were when I got the car. So we started playing with some buttons, and eventually I realised that the problem was using the air from outside to come into the car. In other words, the aircon was off, and that was the problem. The aircon takes the humidity out of the air as it passes through the unit, so it dehumidifies the air. So as soon as I switch the aircon on, I don't usually put the aircon on unless the car's really hot. I use it to cool the car down. You never need to use aircon to warm a car up. You know, there's enough warmth coming off the flipping engine to do that. Petrol, obviously. And yeah, so it turned the aircon on and it didn't mist up ever again. But the aircon uses fuel, that's why I'm reluctant to leave it on. But anyway, so that was the problem. It was the fact that we were getting, you know, seriously moist air in from outside all the time in a confined space with, you know, not a very quick way out sort of thing. It was pouring with rain, you don't drive with the windows open, do you? Yeah, so it, and then after that it was fine, apart from the fact that it then turned foggy. And it turned patchy foggy. In other words, the fog's not, you know, not too bad, but it's, you know, you can't see anything. We lost all our nice views of the lovely Devon scenery, but we didn't see it because of the fog. And then it was patchy, so occasionally you lost the car in front of you, which now means you don't know what's going on up ahead. If they've got a car in front of you, if there's a problem, they get it first and their brake lights come on. You know, keep your distance and everything. But yeah, we had periods where we were driving in pretty thick fog and there was no traffic in front of us, so you really do have to slow down. So it wasn't a quick journey home, shall we say. And yeah, I did that once before I went to Burnhams, and I drive for a while in what I call my local area till I get to Dorchester. When you get out the other side of Dorchester to head to Bridport and then on to Burnhams, you start hitting wonderful scenery, and I had thick fog all the way to Burnhams, and part of the journey is enjoyment for me. The scenery is stunning. You're running along parallel with the coast, and every now and again the road gets a bit closer to the coast, so you can see the sea, you know, over the hills and the rolling downs and everything. So it's a pleasant journey. There's some wooded areas, drive through woodlands, and some stunning views, because sometimes you're up quite high and the land sort of drops away to the distant hills. So. But not in the fog, not in the old shaggy. Yeah, so interesting journey home, but a splendid day out, quite honestly. Extra enjoyable for me having Hannah along, you know, I mean, she doesn't always come on these days out. I've got to snag me now. I hate it when that happens. We'll sort it out in a minute. Right, so I will put pop-ups because I don't know the names, but I can think of one person definitely that, yeah, one anonymous. Somebody donated some money for me to buy something at Burnhams, so thank you to pop-up. I'll add it in later. But yeah, thanks. So I mean, quite honestly, it went into the pot. The pot fortunately got bigger because of the new genus plants. It went to 3 figures, which is money I can't really spare, but then I thought I'm probably not going to go to Burnham's again, and well, where am I going to go anywhere else to buy orchids this year? So this might be the last set of new orchids this year. The other thing I heard about is a guy called Dino, foreign name. He's, I can't remember where he's from now. One of the European countries anyway. Not Serbia, but something. No, I can't remember. But he runs orchid tours to foreign countries, several of which he now can't go to because of the political problems, shall we say. Why can't people behave themselves? But he also started as an experiment. He put on an orchid show last year, right in the centre of Bristol, in the city centre. I nearly went until I thought, city centre, where the hell am I going to park? You know, and it put me off, so I didn't go. I will definitely be going next time. But basically, he came up, him and Trey Sanders, they got their heads together and said that when you put on a show with traders and stuff like that, like we've just been to the NEC, big international orchid show, the people who come to visit aren't interested in rosettes, certificates and judging. They want to see orchids, and more importantly, they want to be able to buy them. So the orchid displays are pretty to look at for a bit. Now, where can I buy some of this stuff? Yeah, so his show had no judging. It had traders, including Spice Exotic. Now, they don't come out to play very often, and for them to come to Bristol, that was a hell of a drive. You know, they're right over Canterbury way somewhere, the other side of the country, in the fat bit of the country as well. It takes longer to get across. The farther north you get, the narrower England gets, until where you get up to the cities start getting closer together because there isn't any room. Whereas down here everything's spread out, well, at the moment. If we get too many more people coming to the country, we're going to lose our countryside. We'll lose all sorts of things, come to think of it. But yeah, so his show was a major success. It was busy over both of the days, and he said it was successful, that probably successful enough that next year he might do 2. But he said he's hoping to have his first one organised for April. That's a good time of year for an orchid show. And it's not, he said it's not going to be based on displays, it's based on plants to buy. So, you know, the traders will be chosen accordingly. And I've been told that there's plenty of parking, all within easy walking distance, so I will go next time. Lynn will probably come with me. Hannah might even come as well, I don't know. But that's something to look forward to, but not till next year. Yeah, it's quite nice having a chat with Dino. He has the world record, because he's done some talks for us at the societies, and he does an hour's talk in 40 minutes. He holds the record for the number of words per minute. And with his accent, he's got quite a strong accent. Some of it you just don't catch, it's just too quick. It's an accomplished art to listen to one of his talks. I'm fine, you know, I mean, I can hear every word he says and understand everything. I'm fine with it, but some aren't. And I think it troubles those that are hard of hearing, that have got, you know, aids, hearing aid type things. Because obviously it just comes as a stream of words sort of thing. You know, he gets an hour's worth of words in 40 minutes. But it's good stuff, you know, so I'm happy with that. But anyway, so that's that, and I had quite a long chat with Helen Milner. She puts on educational displays. I've filmed them before, I didn't film them yesterday, you know, about the way orchids work, you know, the bits of the plants and things like that, the different environments they come from, large educational displays. She's the one that does the ultra macro photography sort of things, you know, down to electron microscope type stuff. So she's an interesting person to talk to, very knowledgeable. Last time I was at Burnhams, I was chatting to her, and as we were walking along one of the long aisles down these 200-foot greenhouses, she was saying, "Those tags are wrong, that's not so and so, that's wrong." Finding the plants that aren't named correctly. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'll get the fogger off of the table over there, and the box is on the table at the moment. I'm going to put the box out of sight, turn the camera around so that it's on the table, and then I can bring each plant over onto the table one at a time. We'll unwrap the 2 initial ones and have a look at them and chat at them, but I'll put the camera in such a place that we can do the unwrapping on camera, but then I can turn and bring the plant closer to the camera. We can have a close look at the blooms. Yes, they are all in bloom. One of them only just, and it might have even gone over overnight. It's got one bloom on, but the spike's got a bud above it. So anyway, so I'll move the camera, we'll shut down now, and then I'll be back and we'll have a look at the new orchids, possibly the last new orchids this year. That remains to be seen. So, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, right, hopefully the box is behind me on my watering table, and I'm hoping that it's completely out of camera shot. At the moment, I'd be in the way anyway, because it's like directly behind me. The camera isn't showing much of the table, because obviously the plants are going to stick up in the air, and hopefully I can then swing round and you know, we can have a closer look at things. That's the theory. now the practice. So we'll take this one first. This is an addition to a collection that is growing all the time. This is a new coleogyny, and I had a mental list of things to look out for at Burnhams. This one was on the top of the list. It's a primary cross between two orchids that two coleogynies that I've already got. And in the coleogynies website that I go to a lot, I think the guy lives in Australia, and he's got a brilliant website on coleogynies. I think it's just coleogynies.com. But each species is described with good points, bad points. They're all given a star rating out of 5. This one is a 5-star orchid, you know, because what it's done is taken an orchid that normally only produces one bloom, hybridized with an orchid that produces a proper spike with multiple blooms that usually open all at once or very, very close together. They are both very large blooms. The colours have been combined, but due to the nature of one of the plants, the plant is now a bit more compact and smaller, which lifts the spike away from the plant a bit better. So this is classed as, you know, one of the hybrids that's taken the best of both worlds. So that's that. The bloom is not far off going over, but we do have another bud to come. And I hope this has got a tag on it, because the name is difficult to pronounce because it's I think it's German. But yeah, that's the person who created the cross originally. But it seemed like a reasonable plant. Oh yeah, that's got a tag. Good. And this was not expensive. It also had no price on it. So when I picked it up in the nursery, I took a risk. I thought, when I get this back to the till, this could be 60, 70 quid for all I know, and I'll have to put it back, because this was the last one I bought. Now, this is well rooted in. It's been in this pot some considerable time, I would think, because we've got some moss growing on it and a couple of weeds. We've got a lot of algae in the pot, so we will have to repot it at some point. And it's one of these coleogynies that puts up a new growth that pushes the spike out in the centre of the new growth, which then progresses, produces its leaves, and the bulb swells up to form the bulb with the leaves on the top. So that's how it grows. So over here we have a new growth that was blind. So that will add to the root system and the strength of the plant. We've got 3 old bulbs, a smaller, you know, probably heading back towards not far away from seedling, and they've gradually grown bigger over time. 3 of the leaves have been chopped, for whatever reason. It's usually lack of humidity, the brown tips. And we have the latest new growth over here, which is currently in bloom. And it has 2 buds to follow on. Now, the bloom itself that's open is going over, but nonetheless, you should be able to get a reasonable impression of what we're looking at. So there we go. That lip, the coloration and the sort of frilly element of it is absolutely stunning. And the rest of the bloom is pristine white, which this one isn't because it's going over, it's starting to fade. So hopefully this bud here, when that opens, we'll see the bloom in all its glory. They're quite long lasting as well, and very slightly fragrant. And this is a cross between Coleogyny Lawrenceana, which I've got, that's the one that has the single blooms, occasionally sequential with another one or possibly another 2, but in the main it's normally a single bloom, very large, and Moriana. And this one is Coleogyny Mem William Michelitz, I think that's probably pronounced, and this is an awarded version of that cross with the name Burnham on the end. So that's got absolutely everything going for it. Sorry, I'm holding it at the screen instead of the lens. You won't be able to see it there. So that's that one. Well pleased with being able to get that. That was on my mental list. If there's one of them around, grab it. So we did. And that are it. Tell you what, there's two big plants on my coleogynes shelf. I'm going to have to find somewhere else to put them. If I want to keep all my coleogynes together, the ones I've got all need roughly the same care. Right, so that's that one. Next is a relatively typical, that's come out of the nursery obviously, the coleogynes, they grow those and they go up to big specimen plants and eventually divide them and the smaller units get sold on. This was in the sales area, so this has been bought in to sell. So this has come from one of the European mass producers, I suspect. You could almost guess what it's going to be just by what I've said there. But I saw this one, I saw the colours from a distance, and I saw that there were only two. So Hannah and I, between us, decided that this was the better of the two and came home with this. So Oncidium type intergeneric. Now what have we got? We have a bulb here, this one, nice big fat one, with two spikes, neither of which have opened, and one is relatively young. This is going to take quite a while to develop and open its buds. So this is going to be in bloom a long time. That's why we chose this one. And then another big bulb over here with the spike that's actually got the open blooms, which is staked. I'm not happy about that clip holding that stake either. That spike, it's pinching it, so I'm going to remove it. Yeah, it was pinching in a bit, that one, I did notice that. Also, I don't know whether these blooms would flop, but I'd like to take the stake off completely because it's actually restricting the blooms from opening properly. But what's been done is the spike has been wound round the stake. I've never seen anybody do that before. I'm just going to try and unwind it, preferably without breaking it. Yes. Oh, that's much better. See, they do that for transport. Yeah? But that stake's no longer required. I'm going to leave it in there for now because it might be holding the plant still. Who knows? But yeah, this has got its plant passport on it, and not ridiculously expensive. It's just Oncidium hybrid, intergeneric hybrid. But I liked the colours. With these type of plants, when you run a YouTube channel, the colours and the shapes and everything about the bloom, fragrance is no good. I can't show that on camera, can I? But that's what a lot of people come to see. They come to see orchid blooms. Well, obviously you've got to wait for them to come round and be in bloom, but yeah, this looks a reasonable plant. I doubt if it's got a brilliant root system, but who knows, I may be wrong. We'll find out, but not yet. I'm not taking this out of the pot while it's in full bloom. So let's have a closer look at the bloom so you can see the colours. And I saw this at a distance and I thought, I like those colours a lot. Deep sort of burgundy red colour, and then you've got little yellow tinges on the tips of the petals and sepals that don't show on every bloom. Some have got more markings than others. But then you've got the lip, which is that more bright scarlet type red, followed by a brilliant nice deep yellow, which is frilly and fringed. Yeah, and the edges to the petals and sepals have got wavy edges as well. So these blooms have got a lot going for them. I liked it a lot. So just a standard Oncidium type intergeneric, but hopefully I can grow on into a better plant than it is now. But it's a plant that's good enough to have 3 spikes, 2 of which are staggered behind this one. You've got to look at what you're buying here. Look, I've bought a spike that's only half open and still has all these buds to go, followed by this spike with all these buds to go, followed by this spike with all these buds to go. That's a good plant to come home with for not too much money. I'm very pleased with that. So that's that. Which leaves the last 2. Have you made an attempt to guess at what we're looking at yet? Cool grower. I have had them before. I lost them all at the same time. Another big clue. How did I lose them all? I repotted them and they all rotted in the media within 3 weeks. You got there yet? I doubt if many people will even remember these orchids. Now let's go into it a bit more. They need to stand in water during the growing season. That's probably the biggest clue you're going to get, apart from where they come from. We do that last. That's a real giveaway. So they're often classed as bog orchids, but that's not strictly correct, because a bog is standing water, often heading towards stagnant and very acidic and all that. No. But they do like standing water, rainwater or pure water. Virtually no feed. And the species can be tiny, up to a reasonable size. These are hybrids, and yeah, they were a little bit expensive, but these have a regeneration process that is quite strict. Their care guide is like nothing else I've got. They are totally different. How these are grown, you throw everything you know in the bin and start again. These are that different. They're not really difficult, they're just different. You got there yet? Right, let's get the first one out. Let's put it this way, it's in a polythene bag because they were standing in water, and if I'd put them in my box, the bottom of the box would have fallen out. So they're in a polythene bag which has probably got half an inch of water in it by now. Did you get there? I wonder how many people actually got there following on. These are Disas, and I'm going to have to wind the camera upwards now. A little bit of shaky, but not too bad, just to get up to where the blooms are so that you can see what I've come home with. Right, I don't believe, no, is there a tag? There is a tag, so hopefully this is a named hybrid. It is. This is Disa Q Pride, Q Pride, as in Kew Gardens spelling, K-E-W. And it's a Disa, and it's stunning. And why I chose this one is that you'll see it when you look at the video of the orchid displays. I started off, there's a little sidetrack here for you, to your left. I was filming the displays and I started up one end and worked towards the other end, and when I got to the far end I thought, oh hell, I've just filmed Bournemouth Orchid Society, and I have this thing with them. I don't film them, they don't get any publicity out of me because of the hassle I had years ago now. Quite honestly, that's blown under the bridge now. It'll never be forgiven, but we can choose to sort of forget it conveniently, and I chatted to all of them and everything, so, and they had a nice display, and I can't remember whether it's specifically on their display or not, but in the video of the displays there is a specimen plant of one of these up high cascading over, and it caught my eye as soon as we walked into that area to look at the displays. I thought, that is stunning, and at first I didn't realise it was a Disa until I got closer, so I have one of those. And well, let's get the bag off. Hang on, I better get some trays out because these are going to drip. We've got any clean ones down here? Hopefully you've got some clean ones. Clean ones. I'll start off. These need to stay pure. And they're heavy because they're absolutely soaking wet. And part of that is probably what they're potted in. Oh, they just fit. Jolly good. They just fit. Right, so what it looks like we've got is a really mature plant. No, you can't have a really mature plant of one of these. This is a pot full of plants. That's a different thing altogether. And the growing cycle of these is, they are basically a bulbule, I think it's called, like a corm, or like a, or we could say sort of like a daffodil bulb, I suppose. They are an underground tuber with a name specific to these orchids. Yeah? And what happens is, they start off as bulbules. You know, if you've got a daffodil, if you dig one up after it's been there a couple of years, it will have grown some new little ones round the side, yeah? And then they grow on and become blooming size. That's a sort of principle. So what happens with these is, these little bulbules are the start of the cycle. Those will put some leaves up, year one, and the next year they will grow bigger. They won't grow in the winter. Some of them even drop their leaves completely in the winter and come up again, but not all of them, just a few. Some of them stay with the leaves they've got. But then they get bigger until eventually they reach blooming size, which is, some of these are obviously, that we have spikes. And we have 2 blooms, apart from this one, on the 3 spikes here, and 1 bloom on this one. That probably meant that the plant, the bulb and the plant and the number of leaves wasn't quite strong enough to put the 2 blooms up. So we've got to the point now where we've got a mature plant, 2 or 3 years, and it's pushed up its spike and its bloom. What's going to happen next? It's going to die. That's it. It just dies. So that bulb gets to blooming size and blooms once, and that's the end of it. In the meantime, it will have grown the little bulbules round the outside of that bulb as it grew up to maturity. And then what you've got to do is you've got to take this all out of the pot, take your little bulbules off, and start them again in a new pot, nice new media, and the old bit you throw away, because if you leave it in the pot it'll probably rot, and if it rots it'll probably take out the bulbules at the same time, so you lose your progression. Where do they come from? South Africa, around and on Table Mountain. How do they grow? Well, there are some that can be found in full sun for some of the day, but a lot of them grow quite high up on Table Mountain, and they spend a lot of the time under low cloud and mist. So they are exposed, but they're not necessarily in the sun, because the sun doesn't get at them very often. What else is special about them? They like their feet in water. They're often found where water runoff is, sort of coming out of the side of a bank where the water's dribbling down, or right next to little streams, as I said, with their feet in the water basically. Often when the water levels rise, the water's often running round the plant. They sometimes get submerged if there's an excess of this water. Where's this water come from then? Well, it's come from up on the top of the mountain, hasn't it? What's going to be special about that water? It's freezing cold, and at certain times of the year, half an hour ago it was snow melt. These like cold water round their feet. That is fresh, preferably moving. But obviously that's damn near impossible to do. I know somebody who made a setup specifically for Disas, and what they did was they had pond liner that created a stream round the edge of their grow space, and they had a pump and a refrigeration unit as the start point. So the pump pushed the water from the low point back up to the high point, and there was a unit, refrigeration unit, where the water puddled before it was pumped back up again. So the water was very cold and the plants stood in it. They grew very well. So Disa's, bit different, bit special. But the other thing is, there's a specialist grower in the UK, if he's still going. I know he became incredibly ill. He used to go around the shows like Chelsea and things, but he became incredibly ill, and I don't know if he's still on the circuit. I don't even know if he's still got his nursery running. But several people have said, like with the carnivorous plant growers, they need real peat, coarse peat. Now, ecologically speaking, we shouldn't be using peat at all, should we? All of the compost for your garden and your garden plants and stuff, it's peat free. There was a carnivorous plant grower at the NEC in Birmingham, and guess who was there? DEFRA were there. The nosy Parkers who come and poke their nose into nurseries to make sure nothing is there that shouldn't be. Nothing's coming in the back door via, avoiding paperwork and stuff. And they came up to the guy and said, "What are you growing those in?" And he said, "Peat." And they looked at him and said, "You won't be able to do that much longer." And he looked at them and said, "Well, I just will throw my plants away then." And it is a bit like that with Disa. Many people have tried other medias with some success, but not as well and successful as using pure peat. They don't go in just peat, they need grit and everything with it. It's got to be well drained, but it needs to be acidic, so they need peat. Now that's when I lost all my last lot, because I believe the peat that I'd got had been in the bag, sealed bag, for a long time, but I reckon there were mould spores in the peat, in the media. So when I repotted them and it got exposed, the media got exposed to the air and everything, the mould took off and everything rotted. So we won't be using that peat again. We will get some fresh, and there are places where I can still get some. I don't need loads, but this lovely potful here can stay as it is, because some of the plants have matured and bloomed, but there's a lot in here that haven't. Well, they should bloom next year. I may lose some of the bulbules on these plants that have just bloomed by not repotting. I will chat to a few people and get the best consensus of opinion about that very subject. Yeah? So that's one. Blooms they're not the I'll see if I can get a pair of blooms. These are upside down blooms, by the way. A bit like the prosthetia type things. They've got a hood, which is like the lip is contained in the hood, and then two lower petals, sepals. I'm not quite sure which. I haven't got any buds either to work it out, but I'll see if I can get a pair of them close. The hoods have always got patterning inside them, either dots, spots, stripes, something, and the hood is at the top of the blooms. I'll see if I can get a pair reasonably close and in focus. So that's sort of what they look like. These are medium-sized Disa blooms. Those are. So what's next then? Well, it's another Disa, obviously. I did say I've got two. You're going to like this one. What about that for a colour then? And these are large. And what about that for a pot full? I reckon there's 30 plants in there, and a lot of them haven't bloomed. Creature. Do like that. That's it. I hope I haven't brought over bloody snails. But you can see, you can see some of the decay in here. These leaves need picking off. Gently, these need pulling out. Which implies to me that this pot full didn't get repotted last year, and so some of the older plants are starting to die back perhaps, if you look here, but then that could have been too much light. But there is some need for work on this pot full. Yeah, basically it's mostly mature plants. The problem with that is that means there aren't many at the halfway stage that are going to bloom next year in this pot, but nonetheless that is a pretty impressive pot full. Again, either singles or pairs of blooms on the spikes. Some of the spikes do have 2 blooms, some only have 1. Some lovely strong plants in here, and these are very sturdy plants. Not all Disas are like this. Some of them are quite delicate looking and quite almost looking fragile. These plants are sturdy. They've got a strong stem and the spike is self-supporting, which is another good thing with Disas. No stakes, don't need to muck about with that. And the colour on these, I hope the camera can do justice. I will try and get, let me just turn around a bit because I don't need to hide the box anymore because the box is empty, so that I can get this one in front of the camera, because that's probably the one with the best colour, and then we can have a nice closer look at what Disa blooms look like. So there you go. Are you not impressed? Well, you better be. Yes, that was quite expensive, that one. Such a large pot full, and there's so many plants in there. We got 2 tags in here. One is a name. What's the other one then? Oh, the other one's a name. Right, we got, it's Disa Suzette James, and the other tag says Disa Suzette James Clone 14. Yeah? Well, if you're producing Disas from seed, the seedlings can be variable and you don't know until they bloom. That says clone 14. I don't think you can clone these, meristem. I don't believe you can use that process on these. Maybe you can. I don't know. But anyway, so that's what the labels say. And a bit of maintenance work required on this one. I shall have to get the tweezers and get right down in there and get every one of these rotting leaves out, because as we know, rot spreads. Well, if it ain't there, then it can't, can it? So we'll need to do a bit of maintenance on this and get some of these manky bits out. And so there we go. Those are the new plants, and as I said, I did try Disas before. They weren't doing bad. I did manage to get some reblooms, but then, as I say, I repotted, and at the repotting stage I lost the lot all at once, very quickly, and I think it was the media that did it, because I can't think what the hell else would have done that. But yeah, all the little plants with their little leaves and everything to grow on for a year or 2, gone. So plus it was far too warm round the other place, so they would always be struggling anyway, whereas here I've got the cooler temperatures and I have some staging outside with cymbidiums on. So guess where these will be going? Not now, but up until the point where the blooms come out and we've got rid of the really low temperatures. If it's good enough for the cymbidiums to go out, it's good enough for these to live outside. And even after the blooms have gone, they can be growing on in the fresh air outside. The one thing they must never do is dry out, ever. That could be fatal. So we've got to go careful with them. They need to stand in water, not get watered. Don't water from the top. You stand them in water and they wick their water up through the media, through the peaty media. But yeah, I was well impressed with that potful, and the colour is just gorgeous. So there we go, one stone cold cup of coffee. It's relatively early on Sunday morning, so I can get this posted reasonably early because Hannah's still here, so we might be doing some gardening as the rain has finally stopped. And I need to find a place for these now. These need to stay well away from the door end of the grow room, so that they are at the shadier end and the cooler end. They also like airflow, so I think these might have to go on the shelf that's got my odontoglossum type oncidiums on, because that's a lower shelf. The higher you go in here, the warmer it's going to get, and the circulating fan does get round to that shelf. And there's a couple of things on that shelf that shouldn't be there anyway, so if I move those, I think the Disas can go there. And then if I move one plant on the coleogeny shelf, the coleogeny can go up there with the rest of them, and the oncidium type will go there with the mix of oncidiums and dendrobiums. So we will get them placed, and I'll get this processed and get it posted, and you can have 5,000 useless Roger points if you guess Disas well before all the clues were given out. And if you guessed Disas before you even started watching this video, then very well done. But I thought it's worth giving them a go. So a new genus for most people that are watching, those that have been with the channel long term. It's a replacement genus. I've had them before. Let's hope we do better with them this time. So there you go, complete with care guide, or mini care guide. It needs a bit more detail than that. So not necessarily difficult, but very different. Right, thanks for everybody supporting the channel. Quick thank yous at the end. Thanks for the members, thanks for the patrons, and thanks for the people who watch the videos and leave comments. Don't forget the thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did so. But yeah, that's the bit you can do now, if you haven't done it already. Yeah, it's just there, you know, even on your phone it's just there. So thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.